The beggar in the dust. The sun burned over the colony streets of Sector 19, a dry outpost on the edge of human territory. The air was filled with dust, engines, and the low hum of space traffic above. Traders shouted. Guards walked. No one noticed the figure sitting near the edge of the road. She was small, thin, and covered in dirt. Her clothes were torn and stained, barely holding together. Her alien skin, a soft shade of violet, was dry and bruised. Long silver hair hung over her face, tangled like old wires. Her hands trembled as she held out a rusted metal bowl. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Her throat was too dry, her body too weak. A few humans passed by. One of them laughed. "Get out of here, freak." Another kicked dust toward her, making her cough. She said nothing. She didn't beg with words, only with her eyes. She had been sitting in that same spot for 3 days. Most thought she would die there. Then everything changed. A loud engine roared from the main road. People turned to look. A black military truck pulled in, followed by armored guards. At the center, a man stepped out. He wore a long, dark coat and walked with calm, strong steps. It was Commander Jalen, the colony leader, a war hero, the man who had brought peace to 3 sectors. Everyone stood straighter. Vendors stopped shouting. Even the guards snapped to attention. Jalen's eyes scanned the market. He wasn't looking for food, he wasn't looking for weapons. Then he saw her. The alien girl sat motionless, her arms barely holding the bowl. One of the guards beside him scoffed. "Just a beggar, sir, ignore her." But Jalen didn't move. He stared. Something in her face froze him. Not fear, not hunger, but something deeper, something broken. He stepped forward. "Sir?" the guard asked, confused. But Jalen didn't answer. He walked through the crowd, his boots crushing gravel. People whispered. Was he really going toward her? The girl lifted her eyes as a shadow fell over her. She blinked, slowly. Her vision was weak. The shape in front of her was blurry. Then, he did something no one expected. Commander Jalen knelt. He took off his glove and gently placed a piece of warm bread into her hands. "Eat," he said softly. She stared at the bread, then at him. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her hands shook as she brought the food to her mouth. She ate in small bites, careful not to choke. Her lips quivered. Her stomach made soft noises like a crying child. She hadn't eaten in days. The guards didn't understand. One leaned closer. "Sir, she's nothing but a street rat. There are others who need—" Jalen raised one hand. The guard fell silent. The people around them just watched. Some whispered, cruel words. Others were confused. Why would a human leader so powerful and respected care about an alien beggar? She looked up at him again, this time with fear. He saw it in her eyes. She thought he wanted something in return. Jalen reached into his coat and pulled out a small water flask. He offered it to her. She drank slowly. The water wet her lips, her throat, her soul. Her hands clutched the flask like it was treasure. Jalen stood up and looked down at her. "What's your name?" he asked. She opened her mouth. No sound came out. A weak, broken breath escaped. She tried again, but only coughed. He saw the pain in her, the exhaustion, the bruises on her neck, the thin scars on her wrists. She had once been chained. "Get a medic," Jalen ordered. A guard hesitated. "But sir, now." 2 guards rushed to obey. "She's coming with us," he added. "What?" a soldier asked, shocked. "Commander, we can't bring her into the vehicle. She's just some alien." Jalen looked at the man coldly. "Then walk back to base," he said. The soldier's mouth closed. He stepped aside. Jalen reached down and gently helped the girl to her feet. She winced but didn't pull away. She leaned against him. Her body was light, like paper, like she had already died a little and no one noticed. As he helped her into the vehicle, people stared, some angry, some shocked. But one thing was clear. This was not normal. This was the start of something. As the convoy moved away, the girl leaned against the window, watching the people who once ignored her fade into dust. And in that moment, she no longer felt invisible. The ride back to base was quiet, but inside her mind, the alien girl was lost in fear. She sat in the back seat of the armored vehicle, holding the last piece of bread in her trembling hands. Her stomach was no longer empty, but her heart still felt heavy. She didn't understand why this human, this powerful man, had helped her. No one had ever helped her before. Not when she was thrown into the streets. Not when she was beaten. Not when she begged. Her head leaned against the cold glass of the vehicle window. Every bump in the road made her flinch. Every sound made her nervous. She had spent too long running from those who wanted to hurt her. She couldn't trust anyone, not even the man who had fed her. Commander Jalen glanced at her from across the seat. He saw how she avoided his eyes, how her fingers still gripped the bread like she feared someone would steal it. She was still scared. That was normal. But he saw something else too. A strength hiding beneath the dirt, the fear, the silence. When the vehicle reached the base, the guards opened the doors. The girl froze. She expected to be dragged, maybe chained. But Jalen offered his hand instead. Slowly, unsure, she reached out and touched his fingers. He helped her down gently, and for a moment, she forgot the fear. Inside the base, everything was clean and sharp. Bright lights, shiny floors. People stared as they passed, whispering. No one could understand why their respected leader had brought in a dirty alien girl from the streets. The girl's eyes darted around. She felt out of place, like a speck of dust on white silk. She needs food. Real food, Jalen said to a young officer. They led her to a private room. Quiet, warm, safe. A tray of soup and soft bread was placed before her. At first she didn't move. Was it a trick? Was someone going to laugh when she reached for it? Eat, Jalen said again, his voice calm but firm. She obeyed. This time she ate more slowly, with less panic. Every bite made her eyes water, but not from pain, from memory. She remembered the time when her mother would feed her like this, before everything went wrong, before her planet was attacked, before she lost everything. When she finished, Jalen didn't leave. He sat across from her, watching. "Do you have a name?" he asked. Her lips moved. Nothing came out. "Can you write?" She shook her head. He sighed quietly. "You don't have to speak today. Just rest." She blinked at him, confused. Why was he still here? Why did he care? She pointed to herself, then to him, slowly, as if asking, "What do you want from me?" He understood the gesture. "Nothing," he said. "I don't want anything. You're safe now." That word, safe. She hadn't heard it in so long it almost didn't make sense. A doctor entered the room. He bowed slightly to Jalen, then turned to the girl. She panicked. Her body tensed. She tried to run, but the commander gently held her arms. "It's okay," he whispered. "He's here to help you. No pain, I promise." The doctor examined her injuries, old bruises, broken ribs that healed the wrong way, cuts that never closed right. Her body told a long, painful story, one the girl didn't need to speak. She didn't cry. She just stared at the wall. The doctor sighed. "She's been through more than just hunger," he said softly. "Someone treated her like less than a being." Jalen's jaw tightened. He had seen war, cruelty, and monsters, but something about this girl's quiet suffering made his chest hurt. "Give her a proper bed," he ordered. "Clean clothes, and tomorrow we'll cut her hair, but gently." The girl looked up, wide-eyed. He smiled a little. "I don't think you want to keep that dust nest on your head." She touched her tangled silver hair. A soft smile, tiny, unsure, appeared on her lips for the first time. That night she slept on a real bed, under a real blanket. No rats. No cold air. No one shouting. And outside her room, Jalen told a guard, "If anyone tries to move her, touch her or talk down to her, they answer to me." The guard nodded quickly. Inside the room, the alien girl lay on her side. For the first time in many years, she wasn't afraid of the morning. She didn't know who Jalen really was, or why he helped her. But somehow she knew he wasn't like the others. She didn't understand it yet. But her life had just changed forever. The next morning, soft sunlight poured into the quiet room where the alien girl slept. She stirred gently beneath the clean white blanket, her body still weak but warmer than it had been in weeks. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't waking up to pain. No sharp wind, no cruel laughter, no fear of being kicked away like trash. She blinked her tired eyes and sat up slowly. The room was plain but peaceful. Smooth metal walls, a soft bed, and a folded towel on the table beside her. There was even a bowl of fresh water and a strange flat object with steam rising from it. She sniffed carefully. It smelled like soap. Then the door opened. 2 female nurses entered, smiling carefully. One of them spoke in slow words. "We will help clean you. No harm." The girl's body tensed. She had learned not to trust kindness, but then she remembered the human leader, Jalen. His voice still echoed in her head. "You're safe now." Slowly she nodded. The nurses guided her gently to a bathing room. The steam hugged her skin. Warm water ran into a tub. The girl stared at it in disbelief. A real bath? For her, they didn't force her. They simply waited. After a long pause, she stepped in. The warm water wrapped around her like a blanket. She gasped softly. Dirt floated up from her skin. Days, months, maybe even years of filth. The nurses washed her gently. They never laughed, never looked down on her. They even smiled when her silver hair started to shine again beneath the dirt. She didn't speak, but she cried. Quiet tears rolled down her face as they cleaned the bruises, rubbed healing balm into her cuts, and combed her long hair with care. With every rinse, a piece of her pain seemed to melt away. After the bath, they dressed her in a soft robe. Her skin felt strange, light, new, unfamiliar. When she was brought back to her room, Jalen was waiting. He stood beside a chair, his arms crossed, his eyes calm. But the moment he saw her, his breath caught. Without the dirt, without the torn rags, without the chains, she looked different. She wasn't just a beggar. She was someone. Her skin was smooth and faintly glowing like starlight. Her silver hair, now clean, reached down her back like liquid metal. But it wasn't her beauty that stunned him, it was the way she stood, still quiet, still shy. But her eyes had a light now. He smiled. "I almost didn't recognize you," he said gently. She looked away, unsure how to respond. He didn't force her. Instead, he stepped closer and handed her something. A small, rectangular device. It glowed, faintly with symbols. "It's a translator," he explained. "You speak. It writes." She stared at it, then carefully held it close. Slowly, she pressed the button. Her voice was soft like wind through leaves. "Why?" The screen lit up with the word. Jalen sat down across from her. "Why what?" "Why help me?" she said again. He was quiet for a moment. Then he answered. "Because no one else did." She stared at him. His voice didn't carry pride. He wasn't looking for thanks, he just told the truth. "I've seen soldiers with machines," he said. "I've seen monsters wear uniforms, and I've seen people like you. Forgotten, crushed, thrown away." He looked her in the eye. "But you're still here." She swallowed hard. Jalen continued. "You didn't die in that alley. You didn't give up. That takes more strength than most warriors I know." She looked down, ashamed. "I'm not strong." "You're still breathing," he said. "That's enough." Silence filled the room, but it wasn't heavy. It was soft, like a blanket of understanding. Then something strange happened. She reached into the collar of her robe and pulled out a thin, worn chain. At the end was a charm, a broken metal shape barely readable. Jalen leaned in. It was an old royal symbol, not just any royal family, one from the forgotten outer systems, destroyed during the last war, thought to be gone forever. He narrowed his eyes. "Where did you get that?" She hesitated, then used the translator again. "Mother gave it to me, long ago." Jalen's heart beat faster. "You were royalty?" She shook her head, then paused, then typed, "I was a child. They killed my family. I ran." Jalen stood slowly. If she truly came from that bloodline, there were people who would kill her, just to erase the past, and now she was under his protection. Jalen looked at her again, not as a beggar, not even as a rescued girl, but as something far more dangerous. A forgotten heir, a symbol of a history that someone wanted to bury, and maybe a threat to someone powerful. He spoke quietly. "You're not just someone, you're someone important." She looked up at him, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Don't worry," Jalen said. "No one will hurt you, not while I'm alive." And for the first time in her broken life, she believed him. The base felt colder after that discovery, though the temperature hadn't changed. Something invisible was now moving in the air around them, something dangerous. Commander Jalen could feel it. He had been a soldier long enough to recognize the moment peace turned into a quiet battlefield. The alien girl, still too weak to walk far, still afraid to speak much, sat in a sunlit corner of his private office, staring at the broken metal, charm in her hand. That little piece of metal had shaken everything. She didn't fully understand why Jalen's face had grown tense the moment he saw it, but she knew it meant something big. Outside, Jalen had already put together a small team to research the symbol. They confirmed his fear. The mark belonged to House Orvana, an alien noble line wiped out during the Third Border War. Every member of the family was said to be dead. But somehow one child had survived, and now that child was under his roof. That made her a target. He had her moved to a secure room inside the base, clean but hidden. No cameras, no records. Not even the guards knew her name. Only Jalen and one trusted officer were allowed to enter, but not everyone was blind. There were whispers. People noticed how often the commander disappeared lately. They noticed he returned looking thoughtful, sometimes angry. A few guessed that he was hiding something or someone, and one man in particular didn't like it. Lieutenant Rorek, a proud and cold officer, had always dreamed of climbing ranks faster. Jalen's sudden interest in a strange alien girl irritated him. He didn't trust aliens, especially not mysterious ones who seemed to come out of nowhere. He wanted answers, and he didn't care how he got them. One night while Jalen was away, from base for a meeting, Rorek slipped past the guards using a security override code. He made his way toward the hidden room, holding a scanner device. He moved quietly, eyes sharp, breath slow. Inside the room, the girl sat on the floor, tracing the edges of her charm with her fingers. She had no idea someone was watching through the crack in the door. Rorek narrowed his eyes. He whispered, "Let's see what you're hiding." But before he could step in, a heavy hand landed on his shoulder. "Don't," said a deep voice. Rorek turned sharply. Jalen. He had returned earlier than expected, their eyes locked. Rorek didn't look scared. "She's a threat," he said boldly. "She wears a crest of a dead house, a house that started a war." Jalen's jaw tightened. "She's a survivor of that war. You don't know what she really is." "I know enough," Jalen said, "and I know you're never going near her again." "She's not one of us," Rorek shouted. "No, she's better," Jalen replied, voice cold. "She didn't betray her people. She didn't leave them to die. She didn't fight for greed." Jalen's hand moved to his sidearm just enough to make his message clear. Rorek took a step back, lips tight with anger. "You'll regret this, Commander." "No," Jalen said. You will. Rorik left, but he didn't forget. Inside the room, the girl had heard everything. She didn't know the names, but the voices carried meaning. She hugged her knees, heart pounding. Was she causing trouble again? Was she putting the kind human in danger? Later, Jalen stepped inside, his face still stern. But when he saw her eyes wide, afraid, his expression softened. You heard? He asked. She nodded slowly. He won't touch you, he promised. She typed on the translator. I bring danger. I should go. No, he said quickly. You didn't bring danger, they brought it to you. She looked down. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't want anyone to die for me. Jalen knelt beside her. You've survived alone long. Enough. Let someone stand beside you now. She looked at him with teary eyes, her voice trembled. Why do you care? He didn't answer at first. Then he said, because once I lost someone. I didn't help when I should have. I was too late. He looked her in the eye. I won't be too late again. The girl's chest tightened. His words were simple, but they hit something deep inside her. She felt like she didn't deserve it. This care, this protection, this kindness. But she wanted to believe him, even if it was only for one more day. That night she couldn't sleep. She looked out the window, where stars blinked softly in the sky. Once, she had belonged to a royal house among those stars. Now she was just a shadow of it. But maybe she didn't have to be just a shadow anymore. Maybe with him, she could become something more. The next day, the wind outside the base changed, quiet, but heavy with tension. Inside the steel walls of the human colony, soldiers moved like normal, but Jalen felt it in the air. Whispers, shifts in behavior, eyes that lingered too long. Someone was planning something. And he knew exactly who. He doubled the security around her room, replaced the guards with his most loyal men, and gave a single order. No one enters unless I'm there. The alien girl, unaware of the danger growing around her, was starting to change. Her body was still thin, her face still pale, but her eyes had begun to shine again. The bruises on her skin were fading, and she had started to walk the halls slowly with Jalen beside her. She didn't speak often, but when she smiled, even the cold metal walls felt warmer. One afternoon, she followed Jalen to the training room. It was quiet, empty. He tossed her a small practice staff. She caught it awkwardly. Ever used one? He asked. She shook her head. Well, he said, let's see what you remember. At first, her movements were unsure, clumsy, but as her muscles warmed, something returned, something deep in her bones. Her steps became fluid, her strikes sharper, her hands steadier. She wasn't just a beggar. She had been trained, and Jalen knew it wasn't by accident. Someone had once prepared her for more than survival, for leadership, maybe even for war. Later that night, as they sat across from each other over a small meal, she finally spoke again through the translator. Why do you look sad when you smile at me? Jalen paused. He didn't expect the question. Because I see what they tried to take from you, he replied. And I hate them for it. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table. They almost won, she whispered. But they didn't, he said. She looked at him. Because of you. No, he replied gently. Because you refused to break. They sat in silence after that. No more words were needed. But outside the room, Lieutenant Rorik moved through the shadows of the base. He had already contacted outsiders, mercenaries who didn't ask questions, paid men who would do what official soldiers couldn't. He told them about the girl, about her symbol, her bloodline. He said she was dangerous, a threat to human control, a secret too risky to keep, but his real reason was simpler. Jealousy. Rage. He couldn't accept that a nameless alien girl now held the attention, the time, and maybe even the heart of the strongest man in the colony. That night, under darkness, The mercenaries entered the base disguised as supply workers. Jalen was called away for a brief meeting, just long enough. The girl was alone in her room, brushing her silver hair, when the power flickered. Then the door creaked. She turned slowly. Two large figures stood at the entrance, faces covered. No badges. No names. Fear returned like a blade to her throat. "Come quietly," one of them said, "or this gets ugly." Her body froze. Her fingers gripped the brush tightly. "Move," the second man growled. But before she could take a step, a voice thundered behind them. "Don't. Move." Jalen. He stood in the doorway, eyes burning with fury, his weapon drawn. "You're not supposed to be here," he said coldly. One of the mercenaries smiled. "Neither is she." A shot was fired. Chaos erupted. Jalen tackled the nearest man. The girl dropped to the floor as plasma bolts lit the room. The walls cracked. Smoke filled the air. The battle was loud, fast, brutal. She saw Jalen bleeding. He didn't fall. He kept fighting. When the dust settled, both mercenaries were on the ground, unmoving. Jalen stood, breathing hard, blood running down his arm. He turned to the girl, eyes wild with worry. She wasn't hurt, but she was shaking. He knelt beside her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have known they'd try something." She couldn't speak. He gently pulled her into his arms, holding her like something sacred. "No one," he said firmly, "is ever taking you from me again." The next day, Jalen called a meeting. He stood in front of the entire base staff. His left arm was wrapped in bandages. His voice was steady. "There was a betrayal from within," he announced, "and I know who it was." Lieutenant Rorik stood at the back, jaw tight. "I took in someone who was abandoned. Someone who had no one left," Jalen continued. "If that makes me a fool, then so be it. But if any of you think you can harm her again, then you'll have to face me first." He turned, walking away. Everyone stood in silence. The girl, watching from a hidden screen, felt something strange in her chest. Hope. He hadn't just saved her body. He had defended her place in this world, and she knew now. He didn't just see her as someone to protect. He saw her as someone who mattered. After the attack, the alien girl barely left her room. She wasn't locked in. Jalen had made sure of that. But her fear had returned like a silent ghost. She paced the floor, watching shadows on the wall. Even the sound of footsteps outside made her tense. She had tasted safety, and now the idea of losing it hurt more than hunger ever did. Jalen didn't push her. He visited every day, sometimes with food, sometimes just to sit in silence beside her. He told her she didn't have to talk. He told her she didn't have to be brave. He just wanted her to heal. But things outside her room were changing faster than either of them expected. Rumors had begun spreading across the base, and then across the colony. Word of the attempted attack had leaked. Some whispered that Jalen had taken in a royal-blooded alien woman. Others said she was a spy. Some even believed she had powers that hadn't awakened yet. People feared what they didn't understand. A council meeting was called. Jalen stood before a room filled with cold stares and careful words. "She can't stay hidden forever," one official said. "Her presence is making people nervous." "She's not the enemy," Jalen replied calmly. "Then prove it," another challenged. "Show the people she's no threat." Jalen said nothing at first. He stood still, hands behind his back. Then he spoke just one sentence. "I'll marry her." The room exploded in noise. People stood, shouted, argued. One councilwoman dropped her tablet in shock. "You want to marry her?" someone barked. "She saved my life," Jalen said firmly. "She carries blood from a noble house that once led her people with honor, and she is stronger than anyone in this room. She's not even human. She's more human than most humans I've met." The debate went on, but Jalen didn't budge. His decision wasn't political. It wasn't for strategy. It came from something deeper, something quiet that had been growing inside him since the moment she looked at him with tearful eyes in that dusty street. When he returned to his quarters that night, she was sitting in the corner, legs pulled to her chest. He sat beside her on the floor. "They're afraid of you," he said softly. She didn't respond. He added, "They think you're powerful, dangerous." She gave a sad smile. "I'm just a broken girl." "No," he said. "You were broken. Now you're becoming whole again." She looked at him, tired but curious. "What will you do?" He didn't hesitate. "I told them I'd marry you." Her eyes widened. For a moment she stopped breathing. "You... what?" "It's the only way to protect you fully," he said. "If you become my wife, no one can touch you, not here, not legally, not politically." Her hands trembled. She stood up and backed away, unsure. "You don't have to do this. No. You're respected, powerful. I'm no one." He stood too, his voice low and steady. "You are someone. And I didn't do this for politics. I did it because when I thought I might lose you during that attack, it felt like the world was falling apart." She stared at him, speechless. "I don't need your answer now," he added. "I just want you to know. If you say yes, it's not because I'm saving you. It's because I want us to walk forward together." That night, she sat alone under the stars, thinking. No one had ever asked for her hand. No one had ever seen her as anything more than a slave, a burden, a ghost. And now here was a man, human no less, offering not just protection but something close to love. She closed her eyes. She remembered her mother's lullabies. She remembered the feel of chains on her skin. And then she remembered Jalen's eyes, the way he looked at her without pity. The next morning she entered his office while he was reading reports. She stood quietly, holding something in her hands. When he looked up, she walked forward, her fingers opening. Inside her palms was the old, broken charm of her family. She held it out to him. He took it gently. "I don't have a ring," she said softly, "but I can give you this, if you still want me." He stared at her, heart pounding. "I don't want anything else," he whispered. Outside, the base came alive with news. The human leader and the alien girl, once a beggar, now a symbol of survival, were going to marry. Some cheered, some protested, but no one could ignore it. And in her quiet room, as she looked at herself in the mirror wearing a soft dress Jalen had chosen for her, she saw someone new. Not a beggar, not a slave, not a forgotten child, but a bride. The wedding was simple, but the eyes of the entire colony were on it. Soldiers lined the base walls. Drones hovered in the sky, recording every moment. News broadcasts buzzed with excitement and tension. Some humans cheered. Others watched with suspicion. Aliens, too, gathered at the edge of the crowds, curious, silent, hopeful. Inside the ceremonial hall, she stood at the center, wearing a long, soft gown the color of the early morning sky. Her silver hair, now brushed and braided, flowed down her back. Her violet skin shimmered under the lights, no longer dull from dirt and fear. She stood straight, calm, strong. Jalen walked toward her slowly, dressed in a black coat with silver lining, the same colors used by Earth's top peace commanders. But his face wasn't filled with pride or command. It was softer now, gentler, like a man seeing home after years of war. When he reached her, he held out his hand. She didn't hesitate. She placed her fingers in his, her touch warm and steady. The crowd fell silent. A senior officer began the vows. His voice echoed through the hall, formal and firm. "Do you, Commander Jalen, take this woman, not as a symbol, not for protection, but as your equal and chosen partner?" "I do," he said without blinking. The officer turned to her. "And do you, child of a fallen house, survivor of hardship, accept this union not in fear, but in strength, choosing this man freely?" She opened her mouth. Her voice, soft but clear, rang out. "I do." The moment her words were spoken, the room filled with a strange energy. Some clapped, some didn't move, but no one could deny what had just happened. A once powerless alien beggar had become the wife of a respected human leader. After the ceremony, they stepped outside together. The wind brushed gently against her cheeks. The sun above the colony burned brighter than usual. She stood beside him, looking out at the world. For a moment, everything felt still. Then a noise came from the crowd, a sharp, angry voice. "Traitor." Everyone turned. A young human, face twisted with rage, threw something toward the couple. A metal object flew through the air. Her body moved before thought could. She stepped in front of Jalen. The object struck her shoulder and fell to the ground. A flare grenade, disabled, but dangerous if armed. The guards tackled the man, dragging him away. But Jalen ignored the chaos. He caught her as she stumbled. "You're hurt," he whispered, holding her close. "I'm fine," she said, breathing hard. "I won't let them take you from me." He smiled. I was about to say the same thing. That night, she stood at the window in their shared quarters watching the stars. Jalen entered the room behind her, wrapping a soft blanket over her shoulders. "It won't be easy," he said. "I know. Some will never accept this." "I know that too. But we'll lead them anyway," he whispered. She turned to him. Her eyes were not afraid anymore. "I've already led people once," she said. "Back when I was only a child. My mother said I had the heart of a queen." Jalen looked into her eyes. "You still do." They stood like that for a long time, the stars blinking above, the city lights below. The past could never be erased. She still remembered the cold streets, the pain, the hunger, the sound of people walking past without seeing her. But now, she had something else. She had a future. And more than that, she had a name again. That night, Jalen introduced her to the council by her full name. Not just the alien girl, not the beggar, but by the title she had been born with, Lady Erilyn of Orvana. And from that day forward, she walked the colony not as someone pitied, not as someone saved, but as someone respected. Some feared her, some admired her, but no one dared look through her again. Children waved when she passed, aliens bowed with tears in their eyes, and even humans, slowly, cautiously, began to smile. Because they saw something different now. They didn't just see an alien woman in fine clothes. They saw what was possible when one person refused to give up. They saw a broken life rebuilt. They saw a beggar become a leader's wife, and then become something even greater, a symbol of change, a voice for those who had been silenced, and the heart of a new tomorrow.